What does the term anti-Semitism really mean? The term Semitism means favoritism towards Semites or Jews. The prefix anti means against. When the two words are used together, the new word logically means against favoritism of Jews. Some Jews are quick to use the label of anti-Semitism as a weapon to stifle the discussion of anyone who dares to oppose them. Connections are made between opposing Israel's policies and the Holocaust, and pro-Israel activists use this to their full advantage to instill a guilt complex in those who defy Israel's plans. For example, Jewish author Gavin Langmuir writes in his book, Towards a Definition of Anti-Semitism, not only are Jews good in their eyes, but they are now seen as no worse than, or as good as, anyone else in the West. Consequently, anti-Semitism is now understood as a highly pejorative term both by Jews and many non-Jews, which is what makes the charge of anti-Semitism, loosely defined, so useful a weapon in political discourse. So long as memories of the final solution remain vivid, the use of that special term of dark origin implies that there is something unusually and uniquely evil about any serious hostility towards all Jews.
The Zionists, of course, in their propaganda agenda, they always try to demonize us as self-hating Jewish people, as they demonize everybody who mentions that the pro-Palestinian something is demonized as an anti-Semite. They try to portray us as being as self-hating Jewish people.
Some Jews who are involved in politics also use the word anti-Semitism to their advantage. For example, Jay Lefkowitz, who was George W. Bush's deputy assistant to the president for domestic policy, once remarked, "Deep down, I believe that a little anti-Semitism is a good thing for the Jews. It reminds us of who we are." Langmuir, who admits using the term anti-Semitism to foist a guilt complex on non-Jews, and Lefkowitz, who likes the idea of a little anti-Semitism to perhaps organize Jews, are not the only Jews who have used this term anti-Semitism to their advantage. According to some non-Jews, this seems particularly true in politics, where Jews have reportedly boasted that they control America's affairs. This appears not to be idle chat either. For example, according to the Washington Report on Middle East Affairs website, it cited an Israeli radio broadcast of Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon on October the 3rd, 2001, where he stated on record, "Every time we do something, you tell me Americans will do this and will do that. I want to tell you something very clear. Don't worry about American pressure on Israel. We, the Jewish people, control America, and the Americans know it." While some people believe that all such talk of Jews controlling America's political affairs is nonsense, many feel otherwise. In fact, some Americans who are involved in politics have gone on record attesting to Jews manipulating America's political process. In 1985, Paul Findley, who has served as a congressman in Illinois for about 22 years, first printed his controversial book that sent shockwaves throughout Congress that still echo today. It was called "They Dare to Speak Out. People and Institutions Confront Israel's Lobby." He noted his own observations about Israel's incredible influence over America's political affairs and others' observations as well. Many well-respected people went on record attesting to Findley's findings. People such as Charles Percy, former Senator Adlai Stevenson, George Ball, former Senator J. William Fulbright, political activist Jesse Jackson, columnist George Ann Geyer, USS Liberty survivor James Ennis, Miriam Ward, Philip Kutznick, Dean Francis Syra, Paul McCloskey, Sheila Scoville, and many other illustrious people at the time. Also, around the time that Findley's book came out, another book came out known as Stealth PACs. It documented how many PACs, short for Political Action Committees, that benefit Israel work covertly under names designed not to attract attention. In essence, these two books documented that 300 or so pro-Israel PACs that are run by Jews dictate America's decisions. Consequently, some non-Jews refer to these PACs simply as Jew PACs and believe they control nearly every word spoken by politicians in respect to Israel or Jews. This is reportedly done through political donations and campaigning for both the Republicans and the Democrats. It has been estimated that over 50% of both the Republicans' and Democrats' budget comes from PACs that are representative of the view of AIPAC, meaning the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee. Consequently, politicians often ask AIPAC first before doing anything. In fact, many feel what Senator Hollings said on May the 20th, 2004 on the Senate floor is an undisputed fact with which America must deal. He said, "You can't have an Israeli policy other than what AIPAC gives you around here." Of course, he waited until he was ready to retire before speaking the truth, or he probably would have not been re-elected with the massive Jewish funds that would campaign against him. But he is far from being the only politician who recognizes this fact, as Findley's book attests.
The American people need to wake up to certain facts. Facts that should have been apparent many years ago, but for a variety of reasons simply are not. One fact is that Middle East policy is not treated as a foreign policy in Washington. Middle East policy is treated as a domestic policy because the lobby for the State of Israel is the most powerful, most intimidating lobby in Washington, certainly in foreign policy, and probably the most powerful and intimidating lobby of any of the 3,000 or more lobbies that do exist there. What needs to be recognized is that the policy we established for Israel has dire consequences for our entire nation. It's not just a question of money, although we've poured tremendous sums into the State of Israel. I can illustrate that very easily. The Christian Science Monitor, which is a very respected newspaper, recently published the results of a study. And that study reported that over $1.3 trillion is the price paid by U.S. taxpayers for the aid in various forms that we've provided to Israel since the year 1975. $1.3 trillion. That's not billions. That's 1.3 trillion. An immense sum of money. But that's not the real cost. The price we're paying now is a result of the bias in public policy that has characterized our policy towards the Middle East for at least 35 years. And I can speak with some authority because 22 of those 35 years I was sitting as a member of the House of Representatives on the Foreign Affairs Committee. I saw directly what was happening. I tried to change course for our country as best I could. My voice was a very lonely one, just about the only one in the entire Congress. House and Senate together, 535 members, and yet my voice was just about the only one that spoke out.
According to some non-Jews, how the Jewish Political Action Committee works is a lesson in trickery. This is how the political process is said to work by some non-Jews. Every year, Congress gives Israel at least $3 billion, although the amount has fluctuated to well over $13 billion on more than one occasion. This is money that is often loaned, but never paid back. Jews are allowed dual citizenship, and they have formed well over 300 pro-Israel PACs, which inevitably promote Jewish domestic agendas as well. Some of the billions of dollars that are yearly sent to Israel are thus funneled back to the United States through these Jew PACs, particularly by Jews who have dual citizenship. And this money is then used to garner more support for Israel. Ultimately, This results in both the Republican and Democrat politician trying to see who can better satisfy their Jewish plutocrats and therefore get the Jewish funds. Political candidate Ralph Nader has said on occasion that Washington is an Israeli puppet show.
The Israeli puppeteer travels to Washington. The Israeli puppeteer meets with the puppet in the White House and then moves down Pennsylvania Avenue and meets with the puppets in Congress and then takes back billions of taxpayer dollars.
Nader is not the only one who feels that way. Some Jews